It started with a late text, just one of those messages that makes your heart drop. "Hey, can we talk?" That's what he wrote. I stared at my phone, knowing something was off, but still not ready for what came next. When I met Chris 3 years ago, I really thought he was the one. He was charming in a quiet, unassuming way, the kind of guy who remembered little things like my favorite coffee order or what song was playing the first time we kissed. He made me feel seen, heard, and honestly, safe. Or at least I thought so. We'd been through a lot together, moves, job changes, a few close family losses, but somehow we kept growing closer. Everyone thought we were the perfect couple. And maybe that's what made it all the harder when I found out the truth. The first time it happened, he sat me down with tears in his eyes. Said it was a mistake. A stupid, meaningless lapse in judgment. He told me he didn't know what he was thinking, that it wasn't who he really was. I wanted to believe him. I chose to believe him. Because when you've built a life with someone, it's not easy to walk away over one bad decision, no matter how much it hurts. I told myself we could fix it. That couples go through rough patches. That forgiveness doesn't mean weakness, it means strength. But what I didn't realize then was how betrayal has a way of planting doubt in the smallest cracks. I started questioning things, how often he was on his phone, the way he hesitated before answering simple questions, even the way he'd pull away just slightly when I leaned in. I tried to push those thoughts away. I wanted to move on. I wanted to believe that love could overcome anything. Then it happened again. This time, there were no tears. No shaky apologies. Just silence. Like he didn't even feel guilty. And in that silence, something inside me broke. Not just trust, but the illusion I'd been holding on to, that this was just a bump in the road, that he was still the man I thought I knew. I'm sharing this not because I want sympathy, but because I know I'm not the only one. So many people have been there, standing in front of someone they love, trying to make sense of something that doesn't make any. If you've ever been lied to, betrayed, or made to feel like your pain was somehow your fault, this story is for you. It's raw, it's real, and it's not wrapped in some perfect resolution. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't come with closure. But what happened next? I never saw coming. And that's where this story truly begins. I guess looking back, the signs were always there, I just didn't want to see them. There were late nights at work that didn't add up, sudden business trips that came out of nowhere, and this slow, steady distance that crept into our conversations. Chris used to be so present. He'd ask how my day was and actually listen, not just nod while scrolling through his phone. But slowly, that changed. It was like talking to a ghost. He was there, but not really. And the more I tried to reach for him, the more he pulled away. I remember one night in particular, it was raining, and we were supposed to have dinner together. I had made his favorite meal, even lit candles, thinking maybe we could finally talk and reconnect. But he came home late, smelled like hotel soap, and claimed he'd been with a client. No explanation, no apology. Just walked in, kissed me on the forehead, and said he was tired. That kiss, it felt like habit, not love. Something automatic. That's when my stomach dropped. You know that feeling? When everything seems normal on the surface, but your gut is screaming that something's wrong. I didn't want to be the paranoid partner. I didn't want to become someone who checked phones or followed clues like a detective in her own relationship. But one night, when he left his phone face down on the table and stepped into the shower, something in me snapped. I picked it up. I didn't even know what I was looking for, I just needed something to either prove I was crazy, or prove I wasn't. And there it was. A text thread with someone named Jay. Not long conversations, not overly flirty, but still, way too familiar. Things like "last night was nice" and "I miss your laugh." The kind of words that cut deep not because of what they say, but because of what they mean. He had promised me it was a mistake the first time. A one-time thing. But this? This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. I didn't confront him that night. I couldn't. My hands were shaking. My chest felt like it was caving in. I just sat there, holding that phone, while he sang to himself in the shower like nothing was wrong. And in that moment, I realized something that chilled me more than anything else. I didn't even know who he really was anymore. And maybe I never did. For the next few days, I went through the motions like everything was normal, but inside, I was spinning. Every word Chris said felt rehearsed. Every smile seemed forced. I started noticing things I used to brush off. The way he'd turn his phone face down without thinking. The extra long showers. The sudden change in passwords. He said it was for security, but I knew better. I wasn't just doubting him now, I was doubting myself. Was I being dramatic? Was I letting one thread of messages ruin everything we built? Or was this just the beginning of something much darker? What made it worse was the fact that everyone around us still thought we were this perfect couple. My friends would say, "You're so lucky, he's such a good guy," and I'd just nod, biting my tongue. I felt alone in it. Like I was carrying this huge weight and couldn't tell anyone. Not even my best friend, Laura. She'd always loved Chris. Said he was one of the few guys she actually trusted. How could I admit that the man everyone respected was lying to me behind closed doors? But eventually, I couldn't keep it in. I told Laura. We were sitting in my car after grabbing coffee, and I just broke. Told her everything, about the messages, the distance, the feeling that something was seriously wrong. She was silent for a moment, and then she said something that stuck with me. If your gut is screaming, it's probably not lying. That's when I realized I wasn't crazy. I wasn't making things up. I was just finally seeing things for what they really were. But that also opened another door. Laura started acting a little strange after that. She began asking more questions than I expected. Not in a concerned way, more like, careful. Cautious. There was this one time I mentioned the name Jay from the messages, and I swear I saw her eyes flicker for just a second. It was quick, but enough to plant a seed of doubt. Could she know something? Was there more to this than just Chris's betrayal? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying things, conversations, little looks, moments I hadn't thought twice about before. It was like puzzle pieces were floating around me, still scattered, but slowly starting to fit. And with every piece, the picture was becoming clearer. And scarier. Because what if the truth wasn't just about Chris cheating again? What if someone else close to me was involved too? Over the next week, everything around me felt off, like I was living in a world that looked the same but wasn't. Chris still acted normal, too normal, actually. He was suddenly more attentive, bringing me flowers for no reason, planning little date nights, asking about my day like he actually cared again. But it didn't feel real. It felt like a cover-up. And the more he tried to convince me that everything was fine, the more I was convinced it wasn't. Meanwhile, Laura started keeping her distance. She wasn't answering my calls as quickly, and when we did talk, it felt surface level. No warmth. No real support. Just short replies and vague excuses for not meeting up. One night, I sent her a voice note, just saying I missed her, and I never got a reply. That's when my heart really sank. Something was wrong. Something I hadn't even let myself consider before. What if Jay wasn't just some random woman? I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I started digging. I went back through photos, texts, even social media posts from months ago. Looking for anything. And then I found it, I buried deep in my photo gallery. A blurry picture from a dinner party last fall. Chris and Laura, standing a little too close. Her hand resting on his arm. At the time, I thought nothing of it. But now, with everything else, it felt loaded. Like the kind of touch that had meaning. My stomach turned. Still, I needed more. Something solid. Something I couldn't talk myself out of. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed Chris. He told me he was going to a meeting downtown. But he didn't go anywhere near his office. He parked behind a small apartment building. I stayed in my car, heart pounding so hard it felt like it would give me away. I watched as he got out, checked his phone, then walked up to the second floor. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I was about to leave, until I saw the door open again. And who walked out? Laura. She didn't see me. She was laughing at something Chris said, then hugged him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like they'd done it 100 times before. I couldn't breathe. My hands gripped the steering wheel, but everything else in me felt numb. Everything I feared, every nightmare I tried to silence, was suddenly real. And I hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. I sat there frozen, watching them disappear behind that door again, like it was just another ordinary day in their secret little world. But nothing felt ordinary to me. My chest was tight, my ears ringing, and my thoughts spiraled so fast I could barely keep track of what was real anymore. Chris and Laura. My boyfriend and my best friend. 2 people I trusted more than anyone. And here they were, together, behind my back, pretending like none of it mattered. I didn't confront them right away. I couldn't. I needed to understand how deep this went. How long it had been happening. I needed proof, not for them, but for myself. Because somehow, even after all of this, part of me still wanted to believe there had to be an explanation. Something that would make it make sense. But nothing made sense anymore. The next few days, I pretended everything was fine. I smiled, I joked, I even kissed Chris goodnight like I didn't know anything. But every second felt like a lie. My head was spinning with questions. How could Laura look me in the eyes and still call me her sister? How could Chris hold me at night knowing what he was doing behind my back? And just when I thought I couldn't be shocked anymore, I found something else. It started with a voicemail. One I had missed while I was at work. I almost deleted it without listening, but something made me stop. The voice on the other end was quiet, hesitant. A woman I didn't recognize. She said she didn't know who else to call, but she needed to talk to me. She said she had met Chris months ago, through a dating app. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just a betrayal with Laura. Chris had been living a completely double life. Meeting other women. Going on dates. One of them even thought he was single. She found my number saved in one of his work documents, hidden behind a folder labeled client files. That's when it hit me, this wasn't just infidelity. This was manipulation on a whole other level. I started wondering how many lies had been stacked on top of each other, how much of our relationship had been real, and how much had just been performance. Did he ever love me? Or was I just another one of the people he fooled? I met with the woman from the voicemail. Her name was Erin. She was kind, nervous, but honest. She showed me texts. Photos. Dates that overlapped with the nights Chris claimed he was with clients. I wanted to throw up. I wasn't just being lied to, I was living in a story I didn't write, surrounded by people I didn't even recognize anymore. Everything I believed about my life was crumbling. The relationship. The friendship. The trust. But what happened next made everything even worse. Because someone else knew. Someone close. And they had been helping Chris hide it from the very beginning. It all came crashing down on a Saturday afternoon. I had spent the whole week collecting everything, screenshots, voicemails, messages from Erin, and even a few awkwardly recorded videos from my car when I followed Chris. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with all of it, but I knew I couldn't keep living like a shadow in my own life. So I invited both Chris and Laura over. I told them I needed help with something important. And they came, like nothing was wrong. Like they hadn't completely destroyed everything I thought I knew. They sat across from me in the living room. Chris smiled and asked if I wanted tea. Laura complimented my new throw pillows. I wanted to scream. Instead, I calmly pulled out my phone, set it on the table, and pressed play. First, the voicemail. Aaron's voice filled the room. Chris stiffened. Lara's eyes flickered toward him, then back to me. I saw the panic spread like wildfire across their faces. Then the texts. The photos. The proof. Chris didn't speak. He didn't deny it. He just sat there, jaw tight, like a man who'd finally been caught in a trap he set for himself. Lara tried to say it wasn't what I thought, that they had only gotten close after he and I had started drifting apart. But I wasn't listening anymore. Because in that moment, the silence between them said more than their words ever could. I told them both to leave. Not just my apartment, but my life. No more explanations. No more fake apologies. But just as Chris stood up to leave, he looked back at me and said something I'll never forget. She knew about Aaron. I blinked. What? She's the one who found out I was seeing Aaron. She helped me delete the messages. Told me what to say to cover it up. She said it was better if you never found out. Said she was protecting you. Lara went pale. That's not true, she whispered, but she couldn't even look me in the eye. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My heart had already shattered into too many pieces to count, and now I was being told that the person I once called my best friend had been managing his cheating behind the scenes. Not just betraying me, but making sure I stayed blind. They both left, and the door closed quietly behind them. That was it. Or so I thought. 2 days later, I got a message request on social media from another woman. She said her name was Danielle. She was reaching out because she had just gotten out of a 6-month relationship with a guy named Chris, same guy, same lies. But here's the part that chilled me, she sent me a picture. It wasn't just Chris and her in the photo. It was Lara too. Smiling. Arms around each other. Like they were all in on it together. And that's when I realized, this wasn't just betrayal. I stared at that picture for what felt like hours. It was all there, proof that it went deeper than I ever imagined. Chris and Lara weren't just cheating. They were living some twisted double life, pulling people into it like it was some cruel game. Danielle said they had met through a small event Chris had dragged her to, and Lara had introduced herself as his close friend. The way she described things, the little moments, the timing, it all fit. Everything I had suspected was true, and then some. That night, I sat in my room, phone in hand, thinking about all the pieces that had finally come together. The betrayal. The lies. The manipulation. It wasn't just about cheating anymore. It was about how easily people you love can look you in the eye and pretend everything is fine. It was about how much you can miss when you choose to trust someone blindly. I had lost a partner, a best friend, and a huge part of myself in the process. But weirdly enough, I also found something I hadn't expected, clarity. I blocked Chris and Lara from everything. Changed my number. Got rid of anything in my home that reminded me of them. Slowly, I started letting people in again. Real people. People who had nothing to gain by pretending. I even stayed in touch with Danielle and Aaron, not because we bonded over the pain, but because we helped each other heal through honesty. The three of us were strangers before this, and somehow, we became a kind of unexpected support system. There are still days when I wonder how I didn't see it sooner. When I replay certain conversations and catch things I missed. But I've stopped blaming myself. That's what people like Chris and Lara count on, for you to take the guilt, carry the shame, and doubt your own heart. But I've learned that intuition is powerful. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And ignoring that voice inside you doesn't make the problem go away, it just delays the truth. So if you're watching this, and your gut is telling you something's off, listen. Don't wait for proof to give yourself permission to leave a situation that's slowly breaking you. Your peace matters. Your trust matters. And above all, you matter. Because no matter how twisted the game might be, you always have the power to walk away and choose a better ending for yourself. And that's exactly what I did. 36.